think this one is super important to discuss. You want to know what every authoritarian government has in common? They fear thinkers. They fear readers. They fear students who ask questions. And they absolutely fear teachers who tell the truth. An authoritarian government is one that wants total control over information, over speech, over people's behavior, and most importantly, over how people think. And education gets in the way of that, because education teaches people how to question power. That's why throughout history, authoritarian regimes like Nazi Germany, Stalin's Soviet Union, apartheid South Africa have targeted education first. It's not just about what's taught in school, it's about who gets to decide what people know. Let's take Nazi Germany as an example. When Hitler came to power, his government didn't just take over the military or the media, they went after schools. They fired professors, teachers who weren't loyal to the party. They banned books. They rewrote textbooks to promote nationalism and erase history that didn't fit the Nazi worldview. They even created new schools designed specifically to raise obedient followers, not critical thinkers. This wasn't about making the country stronger. It was about making the people easier to control. And that's the pattern. It's always the pattern. Because when young people are taught to question, to think independently, to understand the past, they're much harder to manipulate. Now let's look at what's happening in the United States in 2025. The Department of Education has been gutted. Teachers in certain parts of the country right now are being told what they can and can't say about race, gender, or U.S. history. Books are being banned. Books about Martin Luther King Jr., Anne Frank, especially The Handmaid's Tale. In some states, teachers are being required to take loyalty oaths. And across the country, school boards and lawmakers are punishing educators who challenge the official narrative. They say they're trying to stop indoctrination, but banning books is indoctrination. Censoring teachers is indoctrination. It's not about protecting students, it's about keeping them in the dark. So let's be clear, education helps people understand the systems they live in. It teaches them how to ask questions, how to spot propaganda, how to connect the past to the present. That's dangerous for people in power who don't want to be questioned. If a young person learns about how civil rights were won, not just handed out, they're more likely to fight for justice. If they learn about how laws have been used to exclude, to segregate, and to silence, they're more likely to recognize those patterns repeating today. And if they learn that democracy depends on protest, on participation, on holding power accountable, they're less likely to fall for authoritarian slogans wrapped in flags. Timothy Snyder writes in On Tyranny, "To abandon facts is to abandon freedom. If nothing is true, then no one can criticize power." That's what this is all about. This isn't just a fight over school libraries, it's a fight over who gets to shape reality. And that's why teachers, librarians, and public education are under attack. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because they're doing something essential. They are teaching people how to think. I'm a teacher, and I can tell you, most of us aren't radicals. We're not trying to start a revolution in the classroom. We're trying to help students understand their world so they can survive it, and maybe even make it better. But for people who rely on lies, confusion, and fear to stay in power, that's the biggest threat of all. So here's my message to you. If you care about freedom, care about education. If you care about truth, support the people who teach it. If you care about democracy, defend the right to learn. Read those banned books. Talk about real history. Push back when someone tells you you're not allowed to know. That's bullshit. Because once a government controls what people are allowed to learn, it's only a matter of time before they start controlling everything else too.